Welcome to Stormy Night's Stories, new performances of classic radio plays. Tonight we bring you a dramatic story as Captain Jimmy Norton shares one of his tales from the high seas in Harbor Lights. But first, another 5-minute mystery. See if you can solve it by the end of the program. Our story takes place in Green's Gap, a small town in the Southern Cavern District.
Green's Gap Hospital. Dr. Melville speaking.
Doctor, there's been an accident out at Echo Cavern.
Accident? What kind of accident?
2 men were exploring and they got lost last night. One's unconscious. You better come quick before he's dead.
Well, I hope you know how to get out to Echo Cavern there, Lem.
Well, with the job of being town constable and I know all there is to know about it.
Ever been in the cavern, Lem?
Yeah, once, Dr. Melville, when I was a boy. Nearly got my hide tanned off by my paw. The Echo Cavern is a mighty treacherous place.
Yeah, you mean it's easy to get lost in there, don't you?
Well, not only that, Doc. It's that cavern gas carbine or something.
You mean carbon dioxide?
Yes, yeah, that's it. All of a sudden, you're in there and you're into some of that stuff, and before you know it, bing, you're out.
Still, people seem to be, exploring in there quite often, huh?
Oh, more fools to be. I wouldn't go in them caverns, at least till I was not without a dog, anyway.
Huh? A dog? What for?
Well, if a dog keels over, then you know the gas is starting to collect up.
Okay. Well, I'm afraid, Mr. Gatti, your friend is dead.
Poor Patsy. It was from gas, wasn't it, Doc?
Well, that's what it looks like to me.
Now, why did you two go in that cavern anyway?
Well, Patsy asked me to. He said he'd never seen a cave before.
Well, how far did you go in?
Well, it didn't seem very far, but all of a sudden, we lost our way.
Where was that?
Well, how do I know whereabouts it was if we was lost? We tried to trace our way back, but weren't no use. Patsy started to get scared. It's kind of fun to see a big guy like that get scared.
Yeah, he is rather big, isn't he?
Yeah, 6'4". Mob used to call us Mutt and Jeff.
Well, and then what happened?
Well, I was a little scared myself, but we stuck together. Walking in the dark with only my flash from the car. All of a sudden, Pat's keeled over.
From the gas?
Yeah, that's what I figured. His head hit on a rock, and I guess that just about finished him off.
I suppose you reckon yourself pretty lucky, mister.
Yeah, I sure figure it's because I'm only 5'3" that I got out of there alive. And the gas must have been just about a foot over my head.
Yeah. Now, what do you make of that there, Dr. Melville?
Well, I think you better arrest Mr. Gatti for the murder of his friend Patsy.
What was the flaw in Gatti's story? Do you know it? In a moment, we'll hear from Lem and Dr. Melville. And now, let's see whether you're as observant as Lem and the doctor. Hey, Copper, Let me put my hands down. They're tired.
Yeah, when you get to Green's Gap jail and not before.
I don't get it. It was a good story. I still can't figure out how you found out.
Well, Em tells me they used to use them dogs in the caverns because the gas is heavier than air, collects on the floor. If you really met gas, you would have keeled over first, before your pal Patsy.
What do you know? I'll tell you, nowadays in this murder racket, you need a college education. And now, our feature presentation, The Harbor Lights. Once again, we go aboard the old New York ferry boat to meet white-haired Captain Jimmy Norton and his young friend Joe, and hear another of the captain's famous stories of the days of the clipper ships and high adventure. All aboard! Hello, Captain Jimmy.
Howdy, Joe.
All square to the wind?
Aye, kasi kasa, as the French sailors used to say. I got a note from Helen, Joe.
Yeah?
Yes, she liked the last yarn from what we did last week about the Devil's Sink and old Peter Levitt.
Well, that was a good one. Haven't got any more like it, have you?
I was just thinking about it, son. I heard many a yarn in my day about the old swamp.
The swamp?
Oh, yeah, or the Devil's Sink, or the Horse Latitudes, or the Sargasso Sea, or whatever you want to call it, down where the nor'easter and the sou'easter trades die out at the end of the world.
Well, Helen will be listening in tonight. Let's have another one if you feel like it.
But it's strange too, Joe. There's generally tragedy stalking that slimy green ocean in the calm and the quiet of it.
Well, it doesn't seem so strange, Captain.
Oh, aye, but when death puts down its hand, there's generally a gale blowing inside or out. And there was nothing but the swish and roll of an old derelict and the silence of eternity to keep him company the time Jim Lewis and Fred Hathaway met the stranger.
Death?
Aye, death. Though they'd invited him of their own accord, and only one of them took his hand at the last. And I'll leave it to ye to figure out which one, Joe.
Who were they? Jim Lewis and Fred Hathaway.
I got ahead of myself. Jim Lewis was first mate of my schooner, the Carb, sailing out of Boston for Frisco back in the 80s. A hard case, old seafaring man, about 45 at the time. And he had a daughter named Bella Lewis. Oh, folks called her that. They called her Bella. And I reckon she wasn't all she should have been.
What do you mean, Captain?
Oh, pretty gal, about 18, but wild and hot-tempered, wanting things she couldn't have. Got going round with the young sprigs and carrying on. Pretty full of life, but sort of coarse she was. I recollect the day afore she set sail, Belle Lewis ran away from home. I left her pa a note saying not to trouble looking for her.
Well, how'd her father take that?
Oh, he never said a word. Dar forgiving sort. He was shipped aboard the Carb like he'd planned, and he put to sea. But I had a notion. It struck deeper, and he led on.
And Fred Hathaway?
Aye. Fred was a feller about 26 or 7, son of preacher Hathaway. He'd been in Cambridge studying to be a lawyer, and was home that summer. I calculate the lure of the sea got into his blood, and all of a sudden he decided he'd be a sailor. I took him as a hand afore the mast.
And you were bound for Frisco.
Aye. We put in at Pensacola for lumber, and then laid our course south by southeast for the Horn. First day out of Florida, Gulf squall hit us, tore a whole suite of sails right off the yards, and had us wallowing helpless. I'll never forget that blow. I was in the cabin taking barometer bearings when the door bursts open, and in comes Jim Lewis, dragging Hathaway after him. What's the meaning of this, Mr. Lewis?
Meaning enough, Captain Norton. Trying to keep afloat in this smoker with a short-handed crew, and this lubber refusing to lay aloft.
Refusing?
Aye, just that. He's got the whole watch grumbling. If he ain't made to stand like a sailor, I won't be responsible for what happens amongst the men.
What about it, Hathaway? Are you afraid to go aloft?
I'm not afraid, Captain Norton. But I know perfectly well with the ship pitching like this that I couldn't make it. I'd be thrown into the sea. I'm not used to the rat lines of my hands are full of blisters.
Fine talk out of a sailor.
You know that this is my first time at sea, Mr. Lewis. I haven't adjusted all to your double duty you could find me for so far, and I'm not a fool. I have no desire to commit suicide.
If you expect to be a sailor, Hathaway, it's all part of the business. What you have to do, you find you generally can do. Blisters or no blisters.
It's the kind they're breeding ashore now. Soft sprigs and no stomach for work.
I'll deal with this, Mr. Lewis. Till the blow lets down a mite, I'll keep you on the deck, Hathaway, but only this time.
But thank you, sir.
But get it clear. Mr. Lewis here gives the orders that I expect to have obeyed. Aside from laying aloft, you do whatever he says.
I've been doing that, sir.
How do you make the weather, Mr. Lewis?
It's gathering again to leeward. I got a square of tarpaulin from the aft hatch latch to the mizzen, keeping her head into the wind, but the sea's getting higher.
Aye, it looks bad. Barometer's dropping fast. Best call all ye hands.
And what am I to do with this water lily? Lock him under the booby hatch?
I'll stand my share of work for the rest, but I'm reserving a little common sense about my abilities.
Judging your abilities, you might be some help with a cook in the galley, though that's doubtful.
Enough of this now. We got more serious business at hand. Call up the second watch, Mr. Lewis.
Aye, sir. Hey!
Cut that rigging away. All hands look lively. Now mind your helm there.
It's smashed off the rudderhead, Captain.
What? Rudderhead's gone.
We're falling off.
Unlimber the boats. Unlimber the boats.
Oh,
Every man for himself.
no! I can't make it! Throw something over there! Get on me that line! I can't get over there! No.
Here she comes. Well, sir, that big green mountain of solid water swept the crew from stem to stern, tearing off boats and men and all else that stood in its way. Last I recollected, I was holding to a section, the quarterdeck rail, and the rail, and all smashing off and being swallowed up in the sea. Some half hour later, me and 4 men was hanging to an overturned dolly, and the carb had vanished from sight.
Gee. And how about Lewis and Hathaway?
I'm coming to that, Joe. By way of what one of them told me long afterwards, myself and 3 of the men was picked up a day later by a freighter bound for New York. But the carb hadn't gone under. She was a staunch schooner, and the hull of her stayed afloat. But nothing much else. Just the hull.
Lewis and Hathaway?
They was left aboard her, Joe. The two of them, only living souls that hadn't gone by the board. And the carb was a derelict, drifting helpless down into the swamp latitudes, decking herself with seaweed and leaking, bit by bit, down to the waterline. Second day, the weather calmed, and Jim Lewis went about taking stock of their predicament. He come forward toward evening to where Fred Hathaway was sitting and on the slope of the forward deck castle.
Well, what's the verdict, Mr. Lewis?
The verdict's food and fresh water to last a week. A leak under the aft bulkhead that there's no way of plugging, but their lumber will likely keep us afloat. Enough headroom in the cabin to bunk the two of us, and to drift south by southeast. That's taking us the Lord knows where.
Well, there's something to be thankful for.
Aye, a week or more of being alive, maybe.
Well, isn't there a chance that we'll be sighted by some passing vessel?
Now, if ye had a thimble of sea lore in that fancy skull, ye'd know that we's drifting far out of the trade route. Felt the last of the trade wind this morning.
Yes, I noticed. It's getting quiet and still as death. All about uncanny.
We're drifting with a slow, deep current. Here, look over the starboard side. See how we're smooth in the water on the starboard wake? Southeast by east.
I've often wondered how it might feel.
Here.
What are these for?
The captain's 2 pistols, loaded with 1 shot apiece.
Well, I don't understand.
By the end of 7 days, you may understand a heap of things you knew nothing of now. Aye, you know the wild craving for water, fear of the dark and the filthy critters that creep out of the deep, and that fight to keep your senses. So take the pistol and keep it by ye.
I always felt this was the coward's way out, Mr. Lewis.
Well, then it might be a good way for you, mightn't it?
What do you mean by that? It's your idea, Mr. Lewis, not mine.
And you can't thank your stars I've put it in your way. Now I've watched the green lubbers like ye break into pieces under the strain. Aye, and with all your big talk.
You won't see me break, Mr. Lewis.
Aye, I'll be watching ye each and every day. And I'll tell you when your time's due. It'll be a show worth looking at.
It'll be a pleasant way to spend the time watching for each other's lapse from the normal.
Ye can do as ye like.
It would seem saner to begin with if we dropped this apparent ill feeling towards each other. You act as though you hated the sight of me.
And so I do.
What may I ask? Why?
You'll know that before we're through. I'm turning in now. Stand to the middle watch, and I'll relieve ye.
So they drifted on for days. The old carb beginning to smell fishy and ancient, with weeds and barnacles clinging to her sides. Sun got hot, and the sea was green and glassy, full of strange fish that blinked at the sun out of staring pale eyes. A regular pasture ground of the devil's own brood.
Gee, I should think that was enough to drive anybody crazy.
They had a sort of routine of living. Oh, through the unbroken quiet and the endless drifting and lapping of the waves against the sides began to frazzle their nerves. Got to be a ritual each morning. The one sizing up the other, seeking some signs of breaking. But Hathaway was a cool-headed cuss. And he kept his mind busy while Jim Lewis watched the sea and the sky, took his bearings each day, and bided his time.
Well, what happened, Captain?
Well, one evening there was a squawking on the deck. After their meal, a hardtack and sip of water, and somehow the talk shifted to home.
And I dreamed last night of the quays off the point, back home, and broad acres, and that cottage cheese Mrs. Avers used to sell in her Turnpike Creamery. Back home. Do you think we'll ever get back?
Particular anxious to get back, are ye?
Well, can't this endless drifting nowhere, it blots out everything. Even the hopes and longings of those first few days, I feel as though I'd grown in on myself, like a crab with a shell, and all that's left of this world is just you and me and the carrot stuffed in a hole to stop a leak.
Why were ye leaving Boston in such a rush? To begin with.
Why?
Aye, why? I asked you that yesterday, and you gave me no answer.
Is it of any great importance?
Aye, it may be, twixt you and me.
What? What do you mean?
What ails ye? Can't you look a father in the eye?
If you'll stop getting dramatic and say what you mean.
I mean just this, and I've been biding my time to tell you. Miguel Bella skipped out of town. Day before we took it into the head to do it, took it into your head to do the same.
Well, what of it?
Just this of it. I think my gal's got into trouble on account of you. Aye, maybe. But you was hanging around all summer long. You and your saggy and other good-for-nothings. I tried to raise a good, decent, God-fearing woman. Tried to bring her up in the right way her ma had it gone for her. Respecting the things of the spirit, holding herself clean and upstanding. And for some decent man to marry. Was it my fault she was weak as water? Gone loose and wild in the face of my prayers and my pleading? I know the talk and the talkers. Who was to blame for it? Me? That guided her on this fair course? Or spavering young swine like yourself and the rest of them? Ah!
Lewis!
Do it, I tell ye.
Put down the pistol. You're breaking. You're breaking.
What?
If you could see yourself staring like a madman, trembling like a leaf on a tree, your senses are leaving you, Jim Lewis. And you're talking crazy.
There's still time to find out who's talking crazy.
Because I spoke to Belle now and again, or walked out on her with to the Mories or to the park. What's that? You're accusing me without a shred of proof.
I don't ask for proof. I'm telling you what I think. God's got the proof right enough. And if ye deserve it, he'll burden your conscience with it before you're through. I keep seeing her in my eyes. The little blonde-haired girl I used to know. And I keep wondering, what's become of her? If I'll ever see her again, I'd be willing to forgive her any of the shame and disgrace. If I could just see her again.
Cripe, stop sniveling, can't you? Look, off on the horizon, a sail. It's a sail. A sail upside down.
You and your blasted mirages. Stop yelling that way. Move your hairy, thin face away, you shrunken skeleton.
It's good you can't see yourself, Lewis. Blotched with scurvy and crawling like a brother of the slimy thing's underside. You're a squid. All arms and legs and a round head, no body. Get back in the water where you belong. Get back!
Who's breaking now? Steady! Stand back!
Leave me alone! What are you listening for?
It's the Kraken.
No.
Aye. Then give me the axe. He's climbing up the taffrail aft.
What? Kill him, Lewis! Chop off his long, slimy arms! Kill him! Can't you bear it? I just can't bear the sight of him again!
Aye! Take that! Bloody fuck! I killed him. There's part of a tentacle for ye. Look at it, still crawling and wiggling.
Throw it off, I tell you. Oh, water. I'll go crazy without a touch of water. Water, Lewis, water.
I gave out your share this morning. Oh, what water's left?
My share? What? What's left?
Aye, just so. The last drop this morning.
And so, 2 days later, barely able to stand, water and food gone, Jim Lewis and Fred Hathaway sat on the sloping deck of the forecastle and stared off across the green, lazy water. There was a taint of decay in the air, and the sun was sinking down in a yellow ball behind the western horizon. Long streamers of seaweed floating from the lee side of the wreck, rising and falling with the slow heave of the tide.
Had she sunk any lower, Captain?
Oh, a mite, maybe. Though the lumber in her hold was what was keeping her afloat. Lewis finally turned toward Hathaway. He pulled the pistol out of his belt.
Are you listening?
Listening to strange voices, people singing, and a wind blowing in the sails, and Captain Norton calling his orders. Aye, sir, but I can't go aloft, sir. Not used to the rattling lines. My hands are full of blisters, and my feet are blistered, and my tongue, and my throat, and my lungs, and my soul rotted out of shape, never alive again. Any part of me, never.
Breaking, by Harry. Plain daft ye are.
No. No. I'm still seeing straight. Mr. Lewis, straight as I die.
Aye, like me. Maybe. There, she's coming now. Across the water. Look at her. My gal Bella. Walking the greasy water. Searching for me. Calling out to me. Something's happened to her. What are ye staring at?
Nothing. Nothing. I always nothing. But the sea and the sky. Nothing but the sea and the sky. Sea and sky. Sea and sky. And great fountains of fresh water. Oh, that cold, cold tin cups of cold, fresh water.
Look here, Hathaway. We're both no more use hoping and waiting. Take it out. Take out your pistol.
Here.
Nah, can't ye? Hold it steady.
Why?
Look at mine. Point it at ye.
I can't hold it steady. I can. Pointing at your... Lewis, what's the drama all about?
Tomorrow this time, you and me will be dead. Or dying.
And that won't be so bad.
Aye. But this is a decent way to go. Without the last agony of it.
Yes. I guess you're right. But what then?
I'll count 3. Like this. 1, 2, 3.
Yes?
When I say 3, we both fire. That suits ye?
Okay. Go ahead. I say it.
Cock your pistol. Cock your pistol, ye fool.
It's cocked.
God forgive us for the evil we done. Amen. Ready?
Well, I told you. To go ahead, count. Well, count.
I'm counting. 1, 2.
Whoa. Gee, Captain. What happened? Who was it fired?
Who would ye say, Joe? Which would have been most likely to break at the last?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. They were both. Maybe it was Hathaway.
Well, that was the funny part of it, son. 'Twas Hathaway that fired.
Yes?
But 'twas Hathaway that was killed.
I don't understand.
Fred Hathaway broke at the last, but for more reasons than appear on the surface. See, he shot himself, committed suicide, and toppled over the deck in front of Jim Lewis.
Oh.
That afternoon, an American gunboat coming out of Tripoli picked up Jim Lewis and the body of Hathaway and brought him to Boston for Jim Lewis to stand trial for murder.
Murder?
Aye. It was in all the papers at the time. Maybe quite a lot of talk it did make. One of the sensational features of the trial was the presence of Belle Lewis with a newborn babe in her arm. Quite a little trick. Little babe with red hair and sky blue eyes. Looked a heap like Fred Hathaway. She took the stand and swore her pa had reason to kill Fred Hathaway, whether he did or not. She was brave with all her weakness and wildness. And Jim Hathaway was acquitted.
Well, that's some yarn.
Well, here now, we're coming across, Joe.
Yes, sir. See you next week, Captain.
Tell Captain Barlow, if you see him, I'm still waiting to beat him that last game of checkers.
I will. Though I understand he's been sick a couple days.
Oh, no, find out, will ye? Joe, and let me know tomorrow, would you?
Sure I will, Captain Jimmy.
Oh, good. I wouldn't want anything to happen to Ned Barlow.
I guess it's just a cold or something.
Uh,
Good night, Cap.
oh, good night, Joe. And take care of yourself, all right?
I will.
All right.
And so the harbor lights fade out, and the mists of memory close around the figure of old Captain Jimmy Norton, and we return once more to our everyday lives. Tonight's Stormy Night story featured the voice talents of David Griffith, Martin Carlton, Andy Knode, and myself, Deborah Griffith. Foley sound effects provided by Sean Layden. On behalf of all of us here, thank you once again for spending your evening with us, and we invite you back Thursday nights at 7 p.m. for another Stormy Night story.